ready.
Unusual, but. Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for November 1st, 2021. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you go through tonight's agenda.
Certainly. We have an appointment with the Board of Assessors to set the tax rate as a public hearing. We also have Veterans Agent Chris Buckley to give an update, and we have action items.
Thank you. Okay, if you could read the public hearing notice.
Sure. Board of Selectmen and Board of Assessors will hold a public hearing on property tax classifications on Monday, November 1st, 2021 at 6:30 PM in the first floor conference room at the Town Hall. This hearing, which is required by law, determines whether the town will have one classification or will differentiate among several classes when setting the tax rate.
Thank you. You're up.
We do this every year. It's a classification hearing. We have a PowerPoint that we'll go through and review everything. So, it's not here. I don't need these unless I need this. The following is the supporting documentation and estimated tax rate for FY 2022. The estimated tax rate right now, if everything gets approved within the next day or two, would be $15.60. Last year it was $17.05. So it's gone down a lot, meaning the values have gone up a lot. It goes back and forth. The recap, associated documents, and tax rate will receive final certification by the Department of Revenue in November now, and the actual tax bills will be mailed out at the end of December. The purpose of the classification hearing is to decide whether to shift the tax burden between the property classes. It doesn't change the total levy for the community. It simply determines the share to be borne by each class, meaning between residential and commercial and industrial. So the classification does not determine the tax rate for the town. It does not determine how much money can be raised. A split tax rate will not increase revenue for the town, and East Bridgewater voters determine what the tax levy will be by passing the budget when we go to town meeting. To explain that, what we decide, what we recommend, what the board recommends to the Board of Selectmen is whether we should split it between, right now we split it evenly between all classes. And if we were to split it, we could possibly raise the commercial and industrial a little bit higher and have the residential go a little bit lower. However, really, the Department of Revenue recommends that if you don't have more than 25% of commercial and industrial in a town, it really puts a real heavy load on the commercial industrial people in the town because there's so few. So they would absorb that, and that's one of the reasons that we've never done it. And at the end of this, you'll see that, again, the board is recommending that we don't. Right now, the total values by property type, we went up, we're up to $1,898,493,923. Seems like a crazy number, but
Can you repeat that? I'd just like to hear you.
It's hard to say billions, isn't it? The commercial's 117 million. So there's the big shift. Industrial's 55 million, personal property's 50 million. Big chunk of the personal property too is like the National Grid and all those 504s, the utility companies. They're a big part of that. So shows our jump, our average property values last year. This is all of them put together. Average was 374. I think 3 years ago it was 321. So it's been going up about 5%. This year it went from 374,717 to 421,000. That was a 12% jump. I think we've seen it, we know it, You can sell your house for a lot more, you also have to buy that house for a lot more, so, and which is also what is pushing this increase in value, is supply and demand. There isn't a lot of supply. So when houses do go on the market, there's a great demand, and they will push those values up, and that's what has continued to happen. I will say, knowing the market and seeing the market like I do and study it, there's a little bit of a, I would say, just a pause. People have kind of crossed over into this level of 750 for a next, your next move into the large colonial with 3 or 4 bedrooms. It's so high now that I think it's driven some people out of the market, just the cost of it. So we'll see what happens with it. Steve and I and Curtis were just having a little bit of a discussion about that, and, following the values as we do. But there's, as that supply just stays low, that demand will stay there, so. The commercial and industrial property went up just a little bit, maybe 2 or 3%, I believe. Which is, 4%, which is going up, but nothing like a residential. So taxes on a single family home last year on that 374 was 6388. That was at 1705 for the tax rate. This year, the average on that house is 6580.
Based on
And that's-
400,000.
Right, based on the 421, and that would be at the new tax rate of 1560. So it stays it's all relative to the
2.5%.
2.5% getting added on, and then our levy can go up by that much. And our levy, as you'll see on this well, I'll get to it, but, our share of the levy when we come in, so say the whole, we have a $59 million budget this year, 59,302, 638.13, and 33,106,000 is from the levy, and 26,195 comes from other sources, our local receipts, and that's a little bit farther down, but our levy itself is the 33. So the tax rate calculation, it takes our levy from last year and it adds the 2.5%, which is 733,758. And then this year we had a large amount of new growth. We average about 275 in new growth for the past 5 or 6 years. This year was a big year for us. The majority of that came from, we had some new construction, but a lot of that was absorbed from the land that we were able to auction off, and it went from exempt, which we weren't collecting any taxes on it, to now it's viable land, it's being sold, it's being built upon, and that value change in that was quite a bit. Trying to think of what that calculated out to be, but it was like $12 million just for that difference of that, and then the 12 million's broken down into new growth by the tax rate, and that's why we were able to add that. So that's what it goes up to this year, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, $1.1 million that we add to our overall budget that we can spend, that we have coming in. And then our debt exclusion, that gets added on top of once we figure out the levy. The maximum levy that we can collect from taxes from the town is $30,546,777. That's the total amount that we can possibly collect in taxes. We divide that amongst all the value, and we come up with a tax rate. Then we add on the the debt exclusion, and that's what we voted years ago for, and that or that was the big one, but there's other small projects that have been going along. There's some that got paid off last year, and then we were able to refinance that, and that saved about $400,000 in an actual payment of the debt exclusion. So that went down, which was good, because that's also goes back to the taxpayers of paying a little bit less. So that was a good move. And that's how we get to the total levy of 33,119,113. 33,119,99113. Those happen to be my favorite numbers.
Repeat that
I
again.
don't know if that means anything. Okay, this is just a breakdown by value of the number of parcels. Single family, we have 3850 in the town, and then the value, residential value of that was 1,619,393,500. We have 471 condos. We have 18 multiple houses on lot, like some lots have 2 houses, 2 dwellings on them, things like that. 3 families, we have 30. 2 families, we have 129. We have 33 apartments with 4+, and 406 parcels of vacant land. And then your commercial's broken down into all the different factors there. That adds up to where we come up with that billion number. The next one's the revenue sources. So this is what I was trying to explain a little bit, is the property taxes collects 57% of what we have to come up with, that $59 million and change. 57% of it comes from property taxes. 25% comes from state aid. We get that, usually right around that amount every year from the cherry sheet. Local revenue, those are our estimated receipts from permits and collections and things like that. The water and the sewer, well, the water enterprise fund, those things go all in there. Free cash, we put $3,146,790 towards it last year. And that's our budget, including what we would be putting away and things like that, like whatever we decided to budget the money with, and then 4% in other sources. And in closing, split rate, tax rate should not be considered. Combined value is not equal to at least 25%. East Bridgewater is 10.5%. The split tax rate may discourage businesses from locating in the community. And the Board of Assessors' recommendation to the Board of Selectmen is to maintain a single rate for fiscal 2022. Also,
Thank you. Questions, Carol?
Oh, excellent explanation, as always.
thank you.
Anyone
It's a little
out there?
fast,
I think it was perfect.
all right.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the Board of Assessors' recommendation to maintain a single tax rate for fiscal FY 2022.
Any discussion? Hearing none, no? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And there's one last thing that, when we do all this math, after you vote to not split it, in the end, when we use our levy, and we do hit that magic button that takes all the billions and divides it into the $15.60 or whatever that tax rate is, there's usually a leftover levy, and we can use that next year, or the year, like it's left to be, we can use it. And that, I'm just giving you, the total was $13,037.45. And last year was only $3,508. We go between 3,508 was pretty close. Sometimes it just works out that way, and sometimes it can't. But that was where we ended up, and that's just, I notify you that is the excess levy capacity. And then you'll sign this, and we'll be good to go to submit to the Department of Revenue tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just
Thank you
give
very
this
much.
to Rebecca.
Excellent job as usual. Chris, you don't mind if we hold you and do open forum now, do you? Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, we'll now go close the hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We should have closed the hearing before we went to vote, but we did. That's how we show up. Okay, could we have the fire chief, police chief, and DPW director up, please?
I wonder what they're gonna talk about.
Thank you, gentlemen. I asked you to come tonight just to give the residents and people around town exactly what happened with this rainstorm that came in and put 94% of us out of heat and lights and electricity and power.
It was windy.
Was
I had to say it. 'cause-
Chris, you're up.
No, so, between the period of October 26th to October 30th for this no-name storm, the fire department responded to 135 calls for service, most being trees or wires down. We also had a house fire followed by a chimney fire while we were battling the house fire on Thursday, the 28th, which brought in mutual aid from Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, and Whitman. As far as the National Grid aspect of the storm, so major electrical system damage in many parts of the town. Union Street at Walnut Street, Crescent Street at Leaf Lane, Pond Street by Yosemite and Pines, Harvard Street in the 200 block, Winter Street, Central Street at the high end by the town of Hanson, in Washington Street, all suffered significant damage from large trees coming down on power lines. National Grid had damage to their infrastructure affecting over 151,000 outages across this region. There were 9 transmission lines that had fallen. 11 substations were offline. 61 feeder lines were down. This was forecasted for National Grid as a Type 3 event, which means 10% from 140,000 customers could be without power for up to 72 hours. As I said earlier, it was actually 151,000. A Type 1 event is the worst, which is over 780,000 outages for over 250 hours. And a Type 5 was like a blue sky day, where there could be a maximum of 10,000 outages repaired within 4 hours. So we were right in the middle. And they forecasted that about 2 days before the storm hit. And this actually overwhelmed National Grid. They didn't expect it to be as bad as it was. I don't think any of us really did. Outage repairs do not begin until the winds decrease. They have to decrease below 35 miles per hour in order to put somebody up in a bucket truck. So once the winds decrease below 35, that's when the 72-hour clock begins. So that's like the storm is day 0. Thursday was day 1. Friday was day 2. Saturday was day 3. They anticipated everybody, 95% of their customers would be back online by 6 p.m. Saturday, and they actually met that goal. I know some of us came on Friday night, others had to wait an extra night, came on Saturday morning. It's all good, it is what it is. Can't control this. As far as some town actions that occurred, because of the enormity of the damage from the storm, fire, police, and DPW met Wednesday at the DPW barn, Wednesday morning, to go over the list of road closures caused by fallen trees and/or power lines. And the DPW went with National Grid, who offered us both a tree crew and a line crew for the town. And they asked for a DPW front end loader to go with them in order to cut these trees up and just push them out of the way to at least get the roads open. They were accompanied by the police, I believe, for that entire time period. Most roadways were open by sundown on Wednesday, except for the hardest hit areas, which was Walnut and Union, which required extensive restoration efforts. There's actually 2 poles were snapped, and to make matters worse, transmission lines actually follow down Union Street and go out to other parts of communities in our area. So that was down for an extended period of time. Also, Crescent Street at Leaf Lane, which required a pole set, and Winter Street and Pond Street. Those 4 roads remain closed Wednesday. Walnut and Union, I don't believe, was open until Friday. Yeah, Friday after school was actually out because we had issues with busing, and I was in communication with the superintendent of schools. And obviously, Wednesday we kind of knew that wasn't going to happen, but Thursday was a 50-50. But with the amount of road closures and my concern with, with wires actually down, covered by leaves or whatever, I personally didn't feel it was safe to, have kids walking to a bus stop, and in some areas they weren't going to get to the bus stop anyways. So the superintendent agreed, and she closed schools on Thursday, and we reopened Friday. The Mitchell School actually didn't come back online until think, later Thursday afternoon. Yeah, I think, I was talking with the superintendent around 3 o'clock on Thursday when she informed me that the Mitchell School was back up, and I was like, no way, it's impossible. Well, apparently it's fed from the back, not Central Street, so it was up. So they were able to reopen school on Friday, which is good. I personally spoke with the town's liaison to National Grid. Her name is Albany Kendrick. She's been my liaison to National Grid for a few years. We spoke consistently from Wednesday morning right through Sunday morning to provide priorities for National Grid crews for roadway openings and restoration efforts. A warming center was opened at the community center on Thursday and Friday, which was staffed by members of the Council on Aging and the CERT team. Nancy Hill actually called me emailed me Thursday morning and said that she had quite a few people coming in looking to, charge their phones or whatnot. So we mobilized the CERT team with Alan Hiltz to augment that, and on Friday to remain open until I believe they close at 6 o'clock. From noon to 6, the COA was, the members of the COA were presumed had left, and CERT maintained that until Friday evening, which kind of worked out well, because right around Friday evening, when it was the bulk of the town came back online, it took a while. I don't have the percentages with me. We started 94% out Wednesday morning during the height of the storm, and it stayed that way until Thursday. And then we went from 97 down to 56-ish. And then from there, it came down in chunks of 15 to 20% until finally on Saturday morning, we were down to, I believe it was 3%. And then later that day, early in the afternoon, we dropped to 1%. There was like 12 customers that were out. I think I didn't check before I came in, but earlier we had one customer that was still out, that I'm presuming is probably on vacation somewhere and gonna come back to no power. But this storm showed what great collaboration we have between the departments when significant events occur in this town. And in my opinion, everyone involved did a remarkable job, with an emphasis on the fire department, with some of my members working 34 hours straight. And you have to say that because I'm the fire chief. I'm sure the police and DPW can speak for their own departments, and with that, go right ahead.
We'll go over. Yeah, I have to emphasize that. I think in the now 25 years approximately I've been with the town, that I'd have to say, and actually working with both of these gentlemen, this probably ranks in the top 3 storm events that I've been part of. We've worked through numerous different events, and the degree of damage, both tree damage and infrastructure damage, utility infrastructure damage, I only recall 2 other where we faced the same level of, and I would almost say I think this one exceeds the other 2, and actually in the amount of damage that the town sustained. But again, the operations internally amongst the departments, the communication, excellent as always. I always say, these are the moments when, all of us step up and you get it done. There's no personalities, there's no, it's, if it needs to be done, where does it need to be done? I was gonna joke with Tim and say, I think, DPW responded to 134 of the 135 calls. Right alongside, we didn't go to the chimney fire on East Street, but other than that, we were,
Yeah, that's right, you were at the top sheet.
I think we passed each other at least, 40 or 50 times a day for those 3 days. Just excellent operations. We are now in full restoration mode, clean up debris. There's significant, extensive debris along the roadsides, and one of the, again, large trees came down in this event, uprooted trees. So there's a lot of heavy debris on the roadside that will take a period of time to get that all cleaned up. We're obviously prioritizing with, main roads first, intersection safety hazards, and then we will work down the side roads. And we do have a couple outstanding issues. We actually had several trees that came down on homes, so we're dealing with those in the process. But everything is cleared and safe. And I also want to recognize the work that National Grid did in responding. They were excellent. The contracted crews, the crews that were out during the storm. One of the things over the last couple of years that has developed is an excellent relationship with National Grid, pre-storm, during storm, post-storm recovery. The cut and clear operations were integral to the town being able to, no one from Public Works left until all the roads were 95% with the situation at Walnut and Union was extensive. But having that cut and clear and the cooperation between the utility company and us with our equipment, heavy equipment being able to make their job easier and moving on and being able to coordinate that effort is huge. And I will personally reach out to, Joe Cardinal, who's our area representative, and let him know how successful I feel that is. It's a lot. It's something that a lot of communities don't have the option to do. We do. We have, internally in DPW, we've been able to take advantage of some pretty extensive training, so we can put people with their crews that are familiarized with utility system as well. So it works really well.
Thank you.
Yeah, talk about the same thing. The police, we had arrests during the storm. We had B&Es during the storm. We had a hard time finding dinner for some of the prisoners during the storm because everything was closed and I wasn't cooking. The police from Tuesday night through Wednesday responded to 338 calls. So we had to double up our manpower. Everybody came in when called. It was great. Again, when we met with the fire and DPW, it was myself, Deputy Chief Jenkins, Sergeant Bozine. They came up with the game plan and it got executed, I thought, really quick to get those roads open. That was phenomenal. And just to reiterate what they say, it was a great team effort. Everybody stepped up.
Again, driving around town, I do a big thank you to you people. You lead the crews for again, the same thanks to all the workers that came out when they were called. It was tough for everyone. I think one of the important things that Chief Harron said is that people have to understand that the crews cannot go and start this work until the wind stops. That's why I said, why aren't they out there now? Why aren't they? Well, they can't because they're not going up in these bucket trucks. And I think people have to understand that it doesn't start immediately, when the first tree or the first line goes down. It depends on when you can get to that information, get to those lines and the safety of the people involved. And I think that's important that people understand that.
Yeah, there's a very, as we learn and work with the utilities more, there's a very systematic process that they go through before they can start to re-energize, and it's extremely safety conscious. And so
They have to walk every transmission line, like physically walk it. So through this town, it's named after water. A lot of those are through swampland. So they walked them. They were starting to walk them during the storm on Wednesday. Then Thursday, you might have noticed, low-flying helicopters, so they patrol the lines as well with the helicopter. But they have to make sure anything they energize is not gonna burn something down, kill somebody, or electrocute somebody down the road who's trying to fix their infrastructure. By the end of the day, they had nearly 700 contractors and tree crews in our area. And this is the first storm ever that I can recall, at least as fire chief, that when I looked at the outage map, and I saw East Bridgewater at 94%, and every town north, east, and southeast of us at 100%. West Bridgewater's at like 57, Brockton's about in the 50s. So the damage came all the way up to our town line on the western border and kind of petered off there. But I've never seen that before, like entire Plymouth County without power. It was tough too, because we were trying to communicate by telephone, the battery supplies for Verizon or whatever, they dwindled, so it was tough. It was a tough couple of hours trying to actually communicate with National Grid and just communicate with John about roads and issues like that. There's 153,000 without power during the storm. They had to set more than 200 poles across the region. And they normally, I believe, have about 26 crews on hand. They had 700.
a massive logistical effort on their side.
I mean, with people from
Dispatch
Canada,
people.
they couldn't even speak English. They had interpreters going.
Well, even
And-
talking to one of the foremen the other day, Saturday afternoon, he's been in, National Grid for 25, 30 years. He's never seen anything like
The
this.
gentleman down at, yeah, he's in the transmission side of the business.
Never seen anything like it.
I did have a conference call at MEMA on Friday afternoon as well, Friday at 1. We're gonna be starting the process of doing initial damage assessments to see if we meet a certain threshold in order to get the president to declare this declaration of,
State of emergency.
it's not, it's,
What we would-
it's not a
Disaster.
statement, disaster declaration for the
Disaster,
area.
yeah.
Thank you. Problem there with the brain. So we have 30 days to do that. I'll be working on that this week and next, which could be a logistical problem for the DPW because they have so much debris removal that they're gonna have to estimate what it's gonna cost her. I don't know, whatever you do, chip, shred, or get rid of.
Potentially ground.
Yeah, grind. So we'll see if we can't meet a threshold. We'll get some cost recovery, and if we do, it'll be 75% of whatever the town has spent. We'll get, we'll get 75% back of whatever the town spent. And that goes for debris removal is both overtime and straight time. For police and fire, it's only overtime, forced labor, so.
There are two things too I'd like to bring to the residents' attention that a lot of residents want to go out and talk to these contractors and tell, when are you going to get, they need to understand, first of all, these contractors are from all over the country. They have no idea where Walnut Street is in relation to Chestnut Street. And so, but they need to understand, to the logistics point, these individuals need to call 911 and report their matters. It has no benefit, it actually only slows the restoration process down by individual residents actually walking out and trying to engage these guys who are great, but they're there to do a very specific job at a specific intersection. They're not potentially even the next crew that's moving down the street. There's probably another crew coming from somewhere else to get to that next section of pole that's down. So as we experience more and more of these storm events, and I think safe to say that they're becoming more common, and the intensity of them seem to be becoming more common. When I referred to the three events that I can remember, from 2011, we had a pretty extensive nor'easter snowstorm that we lost power for a long stretch of time. And then if you remember, I think it was 2017, we had 3 storms in a row, and the last storm didn't end up being a snowstorm of significance, but it was a very significant windstorm, and we lost extensive power. And they end up bringing in all these contracted crews. So I think it's important that the general public begins to educate themselves and prepare, but also
Spit it out.
can't totally lost my train of
Gone.
thought.
Well, I'll step in for a second while you think about it. As far as dialing 911.
Lost a circuit.
If you don't have an emergency, don't dial 911. Go to my website, find a number for National Grid. I think it's 1-800-322-3223, and report your outage, or you can do it online. Simple. You have to do that anyways, because they want to know every single customer that's out, because it's all logged. And then we call it into the National Grid, and then I can call what they call the muni room over in Brockton, or the municipal room, which is for municipal government, and get into their storm room to say, these are my priorities. But if you don't call that in first, they have no record of it, and it's not gonna go anywhere. And I would be remiss if I didn't add the dispatchers, that I think did a phenomenal job for this storm. I mean, that's one thing that I think they did
They were busy.
great.
Yeah.
Because if I know how busy I was, and I wasn't answering telephones. And they had to answer them all and direct people the way they needed to go, and they did a phenomenal job as well.
Again, thank you. And it's good to educate the public. And both those are very valid, to call it in and realize that nothing's happening, until the wind goes away.
No, thank you all for coming in and explaining. I hope that people will, listen and understand. I mean, it seemed like what I saw on social media, people were patient and they were helping each other out, and neighbors were sharing generators, and, really taking care of each other, and I think that was, well, he didn't help anybody, but.
Wasn't patient either.
Central Street came back first, because, Peter and I
Peter and
live
you
on
live
Central
there, yeah,
Street,
yeah.
so we got 2/3 of the board restored on Thursday.
Yeah, but,
It might be because the DPW, he was in that block
Yeah,
too,
right,
but,
yeah, yeah.
no, it was,
Could you make that part of the minute, please?
Central Street was restored because it's a main
yeah.
Yeah,
transmission.
We don't
power.
even, usually we don't lose power on Central
We'll go by
Street, so
Carol's
this was you
explanation.
can come over, I don't know, I might have cooked for the prisoners if, you But, no, thank you all for
Thank you.
your
Great, thank you.
cooperative efforts.
Appreciate it.
Make a good team.
but, okay, Chris,
So you guys
thank you for your patience, Chris.
How is everybody?
Good.
All right, well, it's November, so Veterans Day, and here to update you on a few things that we have going on in the department. First things first, I want to thank Chuck Horan and the Kiwanis Club for everything they put together this past weekend. With my military schedule, is the first year I've been able to make the Field of Flags, and wonderful event. Had 30 or 40 people brave the rain, and it was a good event, and I look forward to assisting as I can moving forward. They did a phenomenal job with everything.
They did.
Next, we've got the Veterans Day Parade is going to be in Bridgewater this year. Staging for it on Thursday, November 11th, will start at 9:15 on Dean Street. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Bridgewater and the way their parade's laid out is, we'll stage on Dean Street, take a left onto Summer, go up to Bridgewater Square, come back down south, down 18 to Legion Field. All events will be conducted outside with all public guidance and everything as far as the pandemic's concerned. And then next year, because West Bridgewater's 200 is next year, they have next year, and then we'll have ours for 2023 lines up with ours.
Oh, perfect.
So just as we go through planning with our 200th, we can throw that in there as well. So
Great.
works out rather well for us.
It does.
Due to the storm, there has been a lot of flags flying or broken at the cemeteries. This week I've got with the Patriotic Committee, and we're sending teams out to our 5 cemeteries to make sure flags are back up and where they need to be for Veterans Day next week as well. And then tomorrow we'll be conducting a community service project in coordination with the Brockton Vets Court. This is the same crew that helped us during the pandemic clean up Beaver Cemetery. So we're gonna go through, pick up all the trash, clean it up for the winter, get everything looking real good over there. And that's over at the church fields, just down the street, the Hobart church fields. And then I want to thank PD. Chief reached out to me again this year. We're going to do coats for vets. So myself and an officer from the police department will head down to Gillette next Tuesday to pick up approximately 10 to 12 coats for our vets here in town. And they'll have some other, replenishing supplies and everything. And that's something we look to continue. It was a big success last year, so we'll just continue it on this year. And the last item I have is between now and the time it starts to get warm again, we've got about 156 retirees that I haven't contacted yet, as far as out of the 870 that we have here in town. And that's a big priority of mine to make sure they are aware, because a lot of the benefits that run through my office, a lot of them have to do with, percentage-wise, have to do with the older vets. So just tightening that up, and then that just leaves us 230 employed working vets in town that I haven't talked to in the 2.5 years now that I've been here. So
Great.
looking pretty good.
Numbers.
And 115 is steady at 20 people, and things have been going well. Barring any questions,
No, Saturday was great, to see that many people show up, on such a miserable week followed by a miserable Saturday. I said when they first started this 10 years ago, probably took an hour to get these 1,000 flags out.
Like 5 minutes.
Saturday it took about 10 minutes because we were sloshing in the rain. But thanks for everyone there, and thank you, Chris, for all that you do.
Thank you. Oh, and one alibi, passports are up and moving a lot quicker, so.
They just reduced the turnaround times to,
Yeah.
what, 8 to 11 weeks
Yeah,
now?
8 to 11
Haven't
weeks
noticed
for
today.
new, and then 5 to 7 for expedited.
Which is great, because,
Yeah.
we've been telling people 4 to 5 months.
Yeah, so things are picking up there, and more revenue, so.
Okay,
Any other questions?
thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Chris.
it.
Have a great
You
night.
did a good work. Brian, sorry to keep you waiting.
No worries, I'm here all night.
Oh, a lot of people are leaving at 8.
Well, I have twins at home, so. So very briefly, early spring, the town received a grant to do cybersecurity training for staff. We identified about 150 staff between the town and the schools to participate in that training. I'm happy to announce that we've been announced as one of the 34 winners of that grant, and one of the we've been recognized as leaders of the cybersecurity awareness by the Baker administration. Our completion rate for it was not as high as I would like it, but we're about 15% higher than the state average, which is great. The training itself focused on cybersecurity, primarily phishing and cyber attacks, as well as sending out over 5,300 emails to our employees just to see if they would fall for some phishing attacks. I'm very happy with the result of it. I've had a lot of people complaining about the amount of training that they had to do, which meant they were actually doing it, which was great. I've noticed a large influx of people forwarding me emails in the last 6 months, recognizing that these emails might be fake, which is awesome. I always tell people that if you're not sure about something, don't click on anything, just forward it to me and I'll take a look at it for you. It's been great, and it's actually wonderful to actually for IT to actually have positive news for once. Usually if I'm coming up here, it's either one asking for money because of trouble or talking about trouble.
It's great to be one of only 34 communities.
No.
Again, congratulations. Thank you for your efforts behind it. And thank you to the people that participated.
Yeah,
I fell for one of those phishing emails.
I did too.
I was like, I don't know, is this?
Yeah.
And I was like, nope. shoot.
Yeah. So I was actually looking through some of the statistics that with us, and I was actually shocked. So we had, out of the 5,300 emails I went through, we only had 2 that were actually clicked on. And I'm not gonna. I know who.
You and me.
I'm not gonna give names. I'm not gonna give names.
Make sure that's in the minutes.
Oh, no.
But I was actually shocked by that. I would have personally guessed the number would have been higher.
That just means we actually read our email, I think.
Oh, will you stop it?
I don't know. It looked real.
So that's all I have. I just
Appreciate it.
I'm really happy
Yeah,
that how
congratulations.
Keep up the good work, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thanks. You can leave at 8 like everyone else.
Go home to the Twinkies, the twin Twinkies.
All right, Madam Chair, let's get into our action items.
Just one action item. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 18th, 2021, 6:30 PM Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye,
Thank you.
that's it.
Rebecca?
The Kiwanis Club of East Bridgewater will have their Christmas tree sale right here at Town Hall in the parking lot this year. It will begin November 12th and go through December 20th. It will be open weekdays 4:30 PM to 8 PM and weekends 9 AM to 8 PM. So I think that'll look really nice out here in the parking lot. So Ryan just discussed one of the press releases that the town put out. We also put out 2 additional press releases, one announcing Charlie Seelig that will be the new town administrator starting November 22nd, and 3 previously, hired employees. One, Jean Marie Kent Joyce, who just started today as the health agent, Alexander Welch, who started today as the conservation agent, and Melanie Dean, who has actually been working here about a month, little more, as the new town accountant. So lots of exciting new hires in town hall.
Welcome to them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll enjoy their tenure here. Hopefully it's nice and long.
Yes. And next meeting, Monday, November 15th, and the special town meeting, which is November 22nd at the junior senior high school at 7.
Rebecca, have we sent anything out to the department heads, boards and so on, asking them not to have any meetings scheduled for the 22nd of November so they can all attend a special town meeting?
Nope, but I will send that either tonight or tomorrow morning.
We'd appreciate that. Motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yay, everybody.
We'll see you all at the Veterans Day Parade in Bridgewater.